Hello and welcome to this video about sampling and sample editing, the basics on the Akai MPC1. This is one of the main reasons I bought the Akai MPC1 for my studio, and I have to say I'm over the moon with how much it's updated what I can do so easily. Part of it is obviously the touch screen, but just the whole thing, the software is excellent, I have to say. And just so pleased with it. Like most purchases, if you do a bit of research and take a bit of care, it's worth it. You get what you want. Um, anyway, without further ado, to get to the sampler, pretty basic. A home screen, so top left hand corner, and you can see this is the two things we're going to be discussing in this video: the sampler and the sample edit. So I click on the sampler. You can see at the top left here is the inputs. There's inputs one. If I click on it or open it, you can see it lists all the things, and it says inputs 3 and 4. Sorry, it says inputs 3 and 4. I'm actually not sure what that means because it's only got 2 inputs, but I'll put that in the video description. I'll look it up while it's uploading to YouTube and everything. So there's inputs 1 and 2, so obviously 2 for needing stereo. And then there's resample, which I have to say I've never messed with. And I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, I'm assuming that resample left and resample right of stereo means that you'd have mono samples from the stereo, but I could be completely wrong about that, so please don't hold me to it. I'd not had to research that because I figured that wasn't really a basic thing anymore. That's getting into quite detail of what you want. Anyway, so we want input 1, that's where I put the microphone in because you're going to get some of me, not singing, but I'll make some noises into it. And because I'm only using one input, it's on mono. Your choices are mono or stereo, basically, so you can see it changing. One of the interesting things here, worth bearing in mind if you're planning to put your vocals into it, you can put up to 4 of the excellent internal effects on it. So you've got compressors, noise gates, distortion, reverbs. That's quite handy if you're planning to record some vocal samples. Choruses, you name it, it's in here. There's millions of them. If you're doing a stereo one, the auto pan could be quite fun, but of course then you can't fiddle with it afterwards. It's part of the sample. So, like everything, it's horses for courses. There is the parametric EQs as well. They're actually quite useful if you need to tweak the sound a bit. I don't think there was a graphic EQ. I can't remember. Anyway, so this is your level, and you can just do it with your fingers, or you can do it whichever one of the Q knobs it is. I can't remember. That one, the top one. There you go. It is labelled. When you do the Q knobs, you can see they're labelled. So that one sets the volume or the gain, and then this is your max sample time. You see the max sample time is 2 minutes. I'm not sure if that's because of something I've not tweaked on my MPC1, or whether it's how much room you've got on the internal drive or what. I actually don't know the answer to that one, but it's more than enough for most purposes. You can mess with things in the preference menu, but again, that's something I thought would be a later video, not the basics. So one of the most important things here is this button here. It's not very obvious until you light it up. That means you can listen to the audio in. Very useful if you're using the audio in for if you're trying to record something in time with the music that's already inside the MPC. You can actually hear them both together if you've got headphones on or coming over your speakers. So there might be some weird doubling effects when I actually record something, because you'll get my direct noise and you'll get it coming through my speakers as well. Because how I do the audio on these videos is I've literally got the speakers on in my studio, and it just plays, and the phone, which does the video, just picks it up, and it's, as long as you just check the balance a couple of times, it's fine. So this slice, which I will not be talking about in this video, this is basically this is more for loading in a drum. If you're sampling a drum beat, it can automatically slice it up as you go, but that's, again, to me, is beyond the basics. And then pad tap could be useful to you. You tap when you record, you press arm, and you can see it's ready to go. And if you're on pad tap, so if you press it, it will start recording. It doesn't turn it off again though for some reason, but there you go. And I can't get rid of it now. There we go. And I can't. And pad hold, I'm not actually sure what it does. I've never actually used it. And again, it's a bit beyond the remit of this video. I'm sticking to the basics. So just there, you saw me do a sample, and I quickly whipped through it because it was just to demonstrate the pad tap, which might be useful for, especially if you're going to play an instrument live. But one of the things I found with this, it's so easy to trim and mess with the sample afterwards. I've started just recording and messing with it afterwards. I don't worry too much about all the fuss I used to do about trying to get the sample as short as possible at the beginning and stuff like that, because it's so easy to tweak it afterwards. So, if I turn the microphone on. Hello? Yeah, so you can see the levels showing on there, and you might be getting some doubling noise now. So that's all ready to record. And if I turn this down, you can see a little bit of change, not massive amounts of change, but it's there. There is also, on the back of the MPC, there is actually a hardware gain knob, on a record level knob, whatever you want to call it, on the back. I just leave that on full gain all the time and mess with it on the software. So we arm it. And again, it can automatically set off if you set it in the preferences, but I prefer to control it myself anyway, because what I've always found in the past is it triggers too soon. But this does have a few seconds pre-record, and it's actually been quite a lifesaver occasionally. Excuse me. So I'll press record. Fiddlesticks. So I've taken a sample. It says new sample 2 because I did new sample 1 by accident when I was doing the when I did the pad demonstration. This is how you can see I do these videos live. I do notes, but I don't do any script at all. I just do it basically. So because I did a new sample and I didn't name it, one of the great things it does is when you name it, all the ones in that session will be the next one with the next number up. So the previous one was new sample. This is new sample 2. So actually, that must have been I did 2 because there'll be new sample 1 somewhere as well. So I'm going to rename this one. I've forgotten what I said now. I think I said Fiddlesticks, and I said let's call it Fiddle, just because it can take too long to type Fiddlesticks. So that's now called Fiddle. You can assign it to a program. That's the default one in the MPC One. I haven't loaded anything else up. You can assign it to a pad. So I'm going to assign it to pad A16, just for the hell of it, really. I actually get a bit fed up with the fact that nearly all the bass drums on all the programs are on A1. And it's me, you want to spread the wear out. And also one of the fun things I've had in the past with other drum machines as well as the MPCs is if you load a different sequence in, you'll get a completely different drum pattern because the sounds are in different places. And sometimes that's actually been the start of a new song. Then the other thing on this screen is root note. And this is more important for key group programs, i.e. ones where you're doing chromatic sampling, to do to do bass lines or lead lines or chords or whatever. It's less important for drums, but it does affect how much you can transpose up and down. I have actually never changed it. I've always left it on C3. That's the default. Right. So at the bottom you've got save, and you've got play, discard, keep, and edit. Edit takes you to the sample edit thing, just the same as if you were going through the home screen menu. And you might think save and keep are exactly the same thing, but they're not. If you click save, you can see what it's doing at the moment is it's saving to the internal drive under MPC document samples, which is not even a folder I made, I don't think. And I don't want to save them there. I want to save them in my external drive. And where am I going to put them? Somewhere I can find them again to delete them when I'm finished. Actually, we'll just leave them in the top. So I'm going to put them in the top level of my external drive. I have a 1 terabyte drive with a shitload of percussion and other samples and things on. So you can change the name if you need to. So this is going to be Fiddle, and I click save. Okay, and it's saving it. It wasn't that long a sample. Probably the drive is still waking up. It does go. It is quite good. It will power down if you don't use it for a while, which is good for the drive. Now, If you want to check it, you can play.
Fiddlesticks.
And obviously, if you don't want it, when you check your sample, you can just discard it and you've not wasted any memory or anything. I'll demonstrate keep shortly. But what we'll do another sample.
Flibbity gibbet. Oh, flibbity gibbet.
Sorry, I should have. That's because I'm trying to do the video and record at the same time. So you see, it says Fiddle 1 because we did Fiddle. I'm going to leave it as that name. Now, if I press Keep now, what you'll find, if you right, so we'll do another sound as well.
Confragilastic espialidocious.
So play.
Confragilastic espialidocious.
Okay. So I want to assign this to a key, to a pad, sorry, and keep. Okay. So what we can do now, what I didn't do, of course, was change the other one. So you might get a little bonus bit in this video. So that's basically sampling. That really has covered the basics of the sampling. The fun really starts when you go to sample edit. So just to remind you, sorry, there we go. When you're on this screen where keyboard discard sample, after you've just done a sample and you've just pressed stop and recorder, you have got the edit button down here, and that takes you straight to this screen. But I prefer to do it the other way. So back to the home screen, and you can see sample edit, top right hand corner. You see fiddle 3, that was that one I just did to quickly show you. You can see it's dead, and we don't want it, so we can go delete sample, gone. Okay. Right, this is what I'm going to demonstrate something with shortly. So this is the original fiddle.
Fiddlesticks.
And this is where you start to have fun. Well, this is where the MPC is so brilliant.
Fiddlesticks. Fiddlesticks.
Okay. So that's
Fiddlesticks.
Depending on which pad you press, it's basically columns.
Fiddlesticks.
And it's different if you do slicing, which is one of the reasons slicing will be in another video. So if you press the left-hand side, you're playing that dead bit or the whole sample. This is what you've set your start and finish point out. You can enter them by number if you want, but it's very easy just to piss around on the screen. You can zoom in and out as per plus and minus zoom buttons, which is quite handy for big samples, or really when you get into starting messing with beats and things, if you need to be a bit more precise. From 99 times out of 100, what I've done is I've just done it on the screen like I've just demonstrated. So that's that one. Fiddle 1, this should be the flippity gibbet.
Flippity gibbet.
Right, so we definitely got, that was me. That thump was me turning the microphone on, so we'll get rid of all that. Same thing.
Flippity gibbet.
Okay, and then fiddle 2, I think we wanted as well, didn't we? And this is what I was saying about. Doesn't matter about the big silence at the beginning. That's all you got to do is to get rid of it. Now, none of this is destructive. This is all. So if you press there, you can see it's trying to try that bit at the beginning still. Okay. So, excuse me. You can see start, end point, loop point, but I don't think I've got any of these looping. They shouldn't be without me telling them to. You can change the tuning. You can change the root note, which doesn't change the tuning. Is the one that I believe is changed. I might be getting this wrong way around, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Is that the tuning changes the pitch up and down. The root note is just says if you were playing an external keyboard or if you were using the pads as a keyboarding effect, that how far you're away from C is how much you would transpose, or that C3 I should say. Okay, so that's the trim button. Okay, you've also got chop, and that chopping's more for messing around with beats, but you've got manual, threshold, so it's automatic detection, regions, which I've forgotten about, and BPM means it just splits it equally, depending on what BPM you set. You'll notice if I go back to trim, it actually suggests, and I'm not quite sure how it does this, but it suggests the BPM of this sample is 77.63 BPM. But what that doesn't mean anything to me and is way beyond the basics. So program is the same as going to program edit in some ways, and so you can do some more things here But that's the subject of another video, because I will do a program edit video at some point. Zoom and plus and minus. So it is, if you see, I've actually gone so massive, it's gone way off the screen. I think it's gone this way. I think, yeah. See, this is how big you see. You've got the waveform showing there. So there's actually still quite a big gap on this one. Till the, oh, sorry, no, it's that where I've gone off the end of the ring now. So I've gone off the back. I want to go this way. There we go. So we'll go this way. So this is just really demonstrating how close you can go in. So I'm going to come back out again. There we go. Because you can see what I've done with this one, which has actually gone wrong. Why has that happened? I'll go back to trim. There we go. Not quite sure why that's gone wrong, to be honest, but there you go. Oh, it's because I'm still on trim. There we go. Trim. There we go. Yeah, no, I'm still doing it. I'm not sure what's gone wrong there. Anyway, that's gone wrong, but that's actually, I can use this to demonstrate now. This probably won't make a noise. Yeah. So that's actually the microphone thump switching on. I will actually leave that there because that might be useful to show something later. And then you've got a sine. So because I've edited it, what I could do if I wanted, and I do this quite a lot actually, if I wanted just this little thump noise, so actually it's already useful. I'm sure that's very loud, but there we go. Assign slice to pad A1. This is one of the things you have to watch. You have to remember which pads you've used, and I know I haven't used A1. And you see it's a non-destructive slice, so in other words, it won't take it out of the original sample. And you can do other things with it, I'm still on the same program, so it'll only do it. It didn't do anything before. You can close, so I haven't done anything, or you can do it, and it'll assign that slice like that to pad A1 on this program. Right, so fiddle 2. I will use to demonstrate a few other things. So assign, you've just gone through. Process is where the MPC One just takes it into another stratosphere. So discard, you can see here I've got the dark bits and the actual main sample. The bit I want is lighter. This only keeps the light bit, so we'll do that. Doink. There we go. And we'll back up a bit, and we'll back up. So that's now the whole sample on the screen. Okay, so the next one is delete. So if you want to delete chunks, delete the piece between the start and the end point. So you use those to mark where you want to edit the sample. I won't demonstrate that. It's usually because I cock it up, to be honest, but of course you have got the undo function on the MPC. The undo is one of the best things about this machine. You can go back several times. If you want to silence the bit in between the start and end point, so it doesn't delete it, it leaves the gap. The other, I believe delete actually closes it up together, it leaves no gap. I think that's the difference. I haven't double checked that, to be honest, but I'm fairly sure that's what I've done in the past. So that keeps your timing in effect. Useful if you've got, say, some erroneous noise, like a jet's just gone over you gap between lines of a verse or something. Then you've got extract. This is brilliant. So again, you can take that piece out, a bit similar to that assign. You can take a piece out and make a new sample. And so we could do that. But I haven't assigned that to a thing. So we're on fiddle 2, fiddle 3. Oh, sorry, it's just created a new sample. Oh, that's because sorry, it shows you it works. So what I should have done was move them and just taken a piece somewhere. So if I do that now, so extract, fiddle 4. Okay, let me put that back so I don't forget. So you should see fiddle 4 now is now that little section of what was fiddle 3. Okay, let's go back to fiddle 3. So that's extract. Normalize. I use this a lot on my vocal samples, because what I quite often do now is record my vocals into the MPC One. It's actually turned into one of the best ways of recording my vocals, however I'm recording the song, whether I'm using my main studio or the MPC One for most of the music. So, because it's just brilliant, basically. So, what you can then do is normalize. So, just let me check I'm on the whole sample. Yes, I'm doing the whole sample. Normalized, do it. So, and just made it all louder. Okay, so demonstrate that again. So, fiddle 2 is a bit quieter. Normalize. And you can see it's all got bigger. Okay, fiddle 1. Normalize. This is actually very useful for mixing as well, especially for acoustic instruments or vocals that change in volume quite a bit. It actually means that you don't need to change your mixing levels quite as much because the apparent volume might vary because of the tone of voice or your mix, but the volume for mixing is actually much more even. It's really useful. I'm sorry if I can't describe it better than that, because apparent volume is not the same as real volume, because sounds interact, as I'm sure you're aware, and so sounds will cover other sounds up sometimes. You can have the same sound playing a song and it'll be really loud in one section and almost non-existent in another. So it's very easy to do. Right. I think there's something else to show you on that yet. Normalize. Reverse, that's always fun, so let's do that. Yeah. And it's again, you can either use the undo button or if you just reverse it again. It's as easy as that. I've actually used it a few times just because I can, really. It's obviously the classic thing is to reverse a cymbal, or you can reverse an open hi-hat. That's quite good for varying your rhythms a bit. These I haven't actually used, but I love the fact they're available. You've got fade in and fade out of your sample. I've never needed to use them yet, because there's also other ways you can do it when you're actually recording your sequences as well, which is one of the reasons I haven't done it, but it is available, and I like the fact it's available. So they're exactly the same, obviously, other than one's fading in your sample, one's fading out your sample, and you can do linear, log, or exponential. And this again gets back to how we hear, decibels is not a linear scale. I might not get this quite right, but basically it's not a case of if you go from 10 decibels to 20 decibels, it's not just twice as loud. It's not quite exponential, or it's somewhere around exponential. It's like 10 times as loud. I'm sorry, that's a very basic explanation, but this is MPC basics. So this makes it more realistic. Linear's more like you would expect if you were putting the faders down on a mixer or something. But exponential and log give you other variations which can be more natural, for want of a better word, and the best thing to do is just to experiment with them. And pitch shift I've never actually used, and I'm not actually sure whether this is I am sure that basically you can actually do it by semitones. So I've done 12 semitones. That would be shifting it 12 semitones. Yeah, okay. So I've just turned into a chipmunk or something thereupon. So let's take it back. Hopefully I could do the undo button again, but I'm just going to demonstrate. Okay, so let's say let's say I want to take it down an octave now. Oops, sorry. Oh, it's because it's already down an octave to it. There you go. So okay, so I think that's it on the things that are available. Oh no, time stretch. Sorry. See, silly me. I even wrote this down because some of these I haven't used. So time stretch. So if you want to make your sample fit a certain space, you can do that. I'm not sure there isn't other things in there. Oh yeah, sorry. That's because sorry. So I'll get there in the end. Where we're on pitch shift, time stretch, gain change. So in effect, volume change if you like. Copy. Bit reduce. So if you want to, this gets back to your resampling. This is what you do. So if you want to make it sound more lo-fi or more like the 80s or 90s or whatever. Stereo to mono. I think that's all the choices you got. No, yeah. So you can use the left. Oops, sorry. Get back. You can use your left, sum the two parts, sum the left and right together, or the right. That's actually quite useful. I hadn't actually found that myself before. I knew it was in there somewhere, but I'd never needed it, so I'd never looked for it. So that could be useful. And I think now we have running out of things to do to process your sample. Lots to play with. And so all that's within the, like I said, the sample edit screen. Going along all these buttons here. Covered trim and drop. We've said about the program thing. I'll talk about later. There was one more thing I wanted to do about trimming, which because I think I didn't do this quite the way I normally do it. So I'm going to pick that bit of sample. Okay, and assign slice to pad. Make new sample. I think this was the difference. So I took that slice on the other one. This one I'm actually making a brand new sample. So the other one, if I change the sample, it would actually change the slice as well. This one will actually be a new sample, which I'm going to assign to pad A2. So it's probably good to have called it now. Hard to say really. It's in there somewhere. Probably the easiest thing to do is if I go to a program, and this isn't what I quite intended to do, but so that's one of the samples. So that's the one that's what I've just assigned. You can see it's called Fiddle 5, so I did miss it. Yeah. Okay, so I won't talk too much more about that because that'll be for another time about Program Edit. But you can actually do a lot more with the samples within Program Edit as well. So let me just show you that again. I'm just going to pick a bit. And then assign. So make new sample. I'm going to assign it to A3 this time. Do it. So there you go. That's Fiddle 6. That's one I've just done. And of course, you can then start messing with this. What do I want to do to it? Oh, let's reverse it. I don't think it'll make much difference. The world's your oyster, really normalise. There you go. I actually just normalise everything now, just because it's so easy. I don't think there's anything else fun we really want to do in it at the minute. Because what you can then do is, like I say, that's basic editing. You can mess. You've seen we can mess with the pitch. We can mess with the tuning, and so on. And you can actually mess with that within your sequence as well. So I think that's pretty much it. I haven't got any demos like I did for the last one. I think one of the things is it is quite easy to lose track of what you've got in. But when you go on sample edit, you actually list all the samples that are in the machine. Oh, you see, sorry, I did forget something. Because I actually demonstrated with my own samples. I actually loaded this in because I was going to demonstrate this chopping samples out. I do this quite a lot. I've got a friend in I've never met who lives on the other side of the planet. We've only ever talked over the internet, and we make music together. And when he quite often sends me long samples, and so I would load it in, and then all I would do is the bit I want, or is the bit that really makes me go, ooh. So that's the bit I want. Make a new sample. I'll put it onto key A4. The main thing you have to remember is when you do that, because let's say I want this bit. So that did that because you've got to pick which keys you go down to. Different pads do different bits, and I tend to remember pad 10 tends to be the one that does the bit that start finish. So I'm going to just have to click this on this one. So assign. You do have to remember to move it on to your next one. It doesn't move on automatically, which is, I don't know whether it's a good or a bad thing. I also think it'd be much easier to lose track if you didn't have to do it yourself. But it does mean occasionally you forget you've assigned two samples to the same pad. But that's all sortable in Program Edit. You don't lose the sample, that's the key bit. I think on one of my old MPCs, if you assigned another key to it, you lost the sample. But not the MPC 2500, I don't think. I think you can have 4 samples to a pad on that one. So I'm going to do that. So now, if I come out, so that's those 2 slices, as they would be called, would be taken out and be made new samples.
Flitty gibbet.
So this is the program, because it's program mode,
Flitty gibbet.
that's now got those sounds on.
Flitty gibbet.
There'd be some sounds that aren't allocated, because I was busy demonstrating and not watching where I was saving them, or assigning them to pads and stuff. So it's very, very easy to make your own drum kits and stuff. But I will talk about that more when I do the program edit video, which I will put a link from that back to this video, and because they obviously do interlink. But just to pop into quickly show you, make sure you're on the samples page. This page, this is where program edit gets in, and you see at the moment there's no sample allocated to whatever button it is I've just pressed. There we go. Because this is quite useful. You can see new sample 1 is actually silent, which is why it doesn't make a noise.
Flitty gibbet.
And you see, even though we did all that sample editing in the program, it's not done. If you change the sample in sample edit and chop that bit off, then obviously, because you've assigned fiddle 1, if we actually, well, let's do that. Let's go in and let's go and mess with fiddle 1. See, we've done that, but we haven't destructed, we haven't changed it. So the program's playing the whole sample. So if we now process that and delete so we're keeping just the pale bit in the middle and getting rid of the end, the beginning and the end. Oh, did I do that wrong? Let's undo that. There we go. Yes, I've done that.
Flitty gibbet.
Process. Oh, sorry, I'm to it. Sorry, discard's the one I want. Delete, got rid of it, did exactly what it's supposed to. It deleted the actual thing I wanted. But again, you just saw, press the undo button, it's back. No problem at all, no panic. So discard, sorry, and there you go.
Flitty gibbet. Flitty gibbet.
So now, because I've changed the actual sample, I haven't just messed with it in sample edit, you'll see now when I go into program 1,
Flitty gibbet. Flitty gibbet.
it's now the edited sample. But I can change it within the program.
Flitty gibbet. Flitty gibbet. Flitty gibbet. Flitty gibbet.
Okay, so, and again, that's non-destructive. You are not messing with the original sample. But that's really getting into program edit, and there's quite a lot more to go through with all the bits at the bottom. So I hope you found that useful. If there's any questions, as always, please feel free to put them in the comments. And thank you for watching.